One. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the March 19th City Council meeting. Ms. Hilbert, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Councilman De La Garza?
I am present.
Councilwoman Solis? Here. Councilwoman Scott?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Young?
Here.
Councilman Lofgren?
Here.
And Mayor Crocker.
Here. Will you please rise and join me for the pledges, followed by a moment of silence? Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Mr. Garcia, how are you this evening?
Great. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good, good. You have announcements and reminders for us?
I do. I have a few.
Okay.
On behalf of the Parks Department and really the community center operation as well, we want to remind the public that tomorrow evening from 6 to 7:30 p.m. we will be hosting a come and go meeting to discuss the community center master plan. This will begin with a roughly 15-minute presentation by the consultant, just highlighting the results of the survey. In case you're interested, we had nearly 900 responses to the survey for the community center, which up to this point has been the master plan that has garnered the most survey responses, beating the record for the downtown master plan. So definitely a lot of interest in our community center. And so the public and whomever would like to join this conversation can do so tomorrow evening. The committee that we put in place to discuss the community center master plan will also be meeting over the course of the next 2 days to review the same results and continue having conversations around recommendations and ideas. On behalf of the Convention Visitors Bureau, we want to actually convey a change to our bicentennial poster contest. The deadline has now been extended to Friday, March 29th, and now each school can submit unlimited number of submissions, but only one poster submission per student. We had received some feedback that our previous guidelines might have discouraged teachers from doing this exercise with all of their students. And so now we're allowing unlimited number of submissions per class and per school in order to hopefully facilitate more participation by teachers and students. So submissions should be made to the Convention Visitors Bureau inside 700 Main Center. Winners will be notified by April 5th. For more information and details on how to enter, please visit victoriatx.gov/poster. On behalf of Environmental Services, we want to remind the public that as part of the Bicentennial Weekend, Keep Victoria Beautiful in collaboration with the United Way, UHV, and Just Serve are hosting a Victoria Day of Caring on Saturday, April 13th from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. The event invites residents and visitors to participate in acts of service across the city in partnership with many of our nonprofits. Volunteers are encouraged to register in advance to receive the correct t-shirt size, because we know that's important, and choose their service opportunity at victoriatx200.com. Those are announcements for this evening, and I'm happy to transition to recognitions.
Please do.
All right, so we do have a couple this evening. I want to begin by recognizing Ashley Strevel, our communications director, who recently earned a certification from the Public Relations Society of America's Executive Leadership Certificate Program. Completion of this 5-week program allowed communications and public relations professionals to expand their knowledge of how to conduct and implement strategic plans. They also learn budgeting, forecasting, resource management, and other related skills needed to lead with authenticity, emotional intelligence, and strong ethics. And so, as always, we're very blessed and grateful that we have a great leadership team that values professional development and continues to pursue these opportunities. And obviously, Ashley's no different. At this point, she could probably be teaching this stuff, but we really appreciate her dedication, and we obviously all see the product, right, that comes out of her department. And so thank you, Ashley, for your dedication.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I thought you were going to stand up, say a whole speech. No? Well, if not you, I certainly expect the next one to. So next, I want to take a few minutes and just share with you just some words associated with our HR director, Sharon Marthojani, who, of course, many of you know by now will be leaving the city of Victoria at the end of the month after 13 years of service with the city of Victoria. We had a lunch with her this Monday as an executive team, and it was very evident through that conversation just the significant impact that she has had, not only on our organization, but on the lives of our employees and the lives of our executive team, just with her professionalism and her just caring personality. She definitely has left an impact. And, some of the words used to describe her, for example, she's an institution, represents the institution. She is the institution. She's the light, right? I mean, there were so many wonderful things that were said, about her as HR director, but quite frankly, more about just who she is as a person. And so we'll certainly miss her, the HR director, but I think we're all going to miss Cheryl, the person, more. And we certainly wish her the best and thank her for her service. Our HR department, just for the record, has taken leaps and bounds under her leadership over the last 13 years. I joked with the staff on Monday that when I got here 5 years ago and was learning about the history of the HR department, it would kind of boggle my mind just the path that the HR department has gone over her time here. And so we now, it's easy to take for granted when you have a smooth operation. Obviously, yes, we have retention, recruitment challenges, but operationally speaking, the HR process has become a lot better than it's been historically. And a lot of that has to do with Cheryl and her leadership. And so we now have a more family-centric organization with policy changes. We have the Employee Helping Employees Committee that others were involved with, but Cheryl has been involved with for sure. And so with that, I just want to publicly thank Cheryl for her service to the city of Victoria, wish her the best. We'll certainly miss you. And I hope we can all agree to that. And let's give her a round of applause that she deserves.
I am very humbled by that. Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure working for everyone in this organization and being the voice of the employees. I take that very seriously and have a lot of pride in that. And I was open whenever I talked to the city of Burleson leadership that Victoria's got a special place in my heart and will always have that place. So thank y'all all for your support. And I'll miss Victoria, but I'll still be around. I'll come and visit occasionally. So thank y'all very much.
Cheryl, we will certainly miss you, and thank you for your many years of outstanding service. Just
Thank you, Mayor.
can't say enough. Great job.
Appreciate that. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Those are all the recognitions we have for this evening.
Okay, thank you. Item B3 then is items from council. I'll just make a note real quick that we are pulling item D7 from the consent agenda. Any other items from council?
I got one.
Yes.
Okay, I know it's not the city's problem, but the medium that's going towards or coming from like Houston, right there in front of Walmart, I was at Discount Tire and they were telling me that at least twice a week, somebody goes in there to buy tires because they run into that medium. I think it goes into jet maintenance. If there was some way that you could, make it more obvious, because, it's like, it's causing a lot of problems, just to be able to either light it up, put some poles, put some kind of, things that say, okay, you're going to hit the medium if you turn right here. Because it's directly, where the light is to turn into Walmart. It's just right before you get in there, there's an arrow that says you can turn, so you get on there and you think, okay, nope, boom, 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 boom. So, yeah, Discount Tire says they make a lot of business there. So I don't know if we
Well,
can.
we did
do-
say that the median would not impact businesses.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding.
It's impacting that one,
But we can certainly look at that.
Yes,
And just
that
to
would
see
help.
what kind of markings, delineators, signs, et cetera, if anything, if there's an opportunity to, address an issue, then we'll certainly look at it, for sure.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is really the turn is up further for Walmart.
Yes,
But
yes, it
you're
is.
afraid that you missed it because it's kind of a short queue.
Right.
And so
And
you-
it does have that arrow right there, because if you're looking
For the turn.
the arrow to turn, it's right there. And then you go, oh, wait a minute, it was supposed to be further ahead, but you can't change lanes because you might hit somebody. You back up, it's still going to be, it's just a mess.
I think that was done so that jet maintenance would have
Right,
an
right.
entrance without people having to do a U-turn.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Solis. Yes, sir.
Mayor and council members, a few council meetings ago, we had a speaker, the acting fire chief, Shannon Martin, came up and gave his annual report. And at that time, the mayor, Balknight, had asked him some questions concerning the cardiac arrest success and save rate. And it left a kind of a little bit of confusion at the end about the low percentage. Anyway, I've invited the fire department back to explain a little better on the save rate and exactly what creates a good outcome when it's a cardiac arrest and what doesn't, and some of the dilemmas that the fire department has, making sure that these cardiac arrests are handled correctly and efficiently. But there's a lot of factors involved that pertain to cardiac arrest. And anyway, I think Derek or someone's going to come up and introduce the fire department to give us a talk about what makes a difference in cardiac arrest and what we're doing as a fire department to bring these numbers up.
Okay, good.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. I do want to thank you for giving us the chance to explain that. I remember sitting in some of the life-saving awards. They do quarterly a life-saving award activity. Where I first heard that statistic, that it's, such a low number of people are surviving discharge from the hospital. I think it's really important that we understand it is not the quality of our first responders that is causing that number, right? And so today we'll have our EMS chief, Mark Martin, give you an explanation of what that entails, the factors, the things that could be improved, and what we're doing about that to improve those things. And then we'll be available for questions after. So, thank you.
Council.
Good evening.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to start off with pretty much some data I've pulled from the last 4 years that have our cardiac survival rates as well as our return to spontaneous circulation rates. Pretty much what we're looking at from 2020 to 2023, we have it broken out to the amount of cardiac arrest that we worked for all responses. That does not factor in, or does factor in city and county as well together. So we're not making a distinction between the two. But you can see in the data that we've been holding steady around 115 to be between 105 responses where we did cardiac arrest and where we did CPR. We did filter out some of the data that would not be applicable to this, so things where we did not do CPR for one reason or another, either the viability was not there or it was a traumatic arrest where we determined there was not resuscitative efforts needed just because they would be futile. But I do want to point out that while our percentages of survival out of the hospital have changed, they have gone down, our ROSC rates have maintained more or less steady within 10% over the past 4 years. And really what the ROSC rate is, that is when we arrive to a location, we do CPR on an individual and we get a return of spontaneous circulation. And what spontaneous circulation is we are no longer doing CPR, we're no longer pushing drugs. That person has a sustained heartbeat. And there's a lot of factors that go into that, and I'll break that down a little bit more on another page. But our ROSC rates for this past year are 27%. National average that I was able to pull up from 2022, which would reflect more or less some of the same timeline, despite the differences in years, it's just how the reports are made, was 23%. So we are above the national average on that, despite being below the national average on people walking out of the hospital or being discharged from the hospital alive. Unfortunately, we have a lot of influence on what gets the ROSC rate up. We don't necessarily have a whole lot of influence on what keeps that person alive once they reach the hospital. There's a whole lot of factors that go into that, and it's kind of beyond the scope of this presentation or my knowledge on the subject to speak for the hospital's behalf. What we do have in this next slide is just some of the information that does play a factor, and it's going to kind of go into our next topic here that Chief Woodward's going to speak on. But how we get ROSC and the factors that influence that spontaneous circulation rate. So a big part of this is the amount of downtime that somebody has between the part where their heart stops beating and then when CPR is performed. And there on the bottom right, we have it broken up into the kind of the time frames that the Ustein data reflects and what we try and track. After 4 minutes, your brain starts to die without oxygen or good heart rate with good perfusion to the brain. So if you're not getting oxygen to the brain within 4 minutes, your brain is starting to die. You see there on the bottom right that we have it broken down into the 2-minute increments until we get to 10 minutes. 80% of the calls that we respond to happen after the 4-minute mark. So we're way behind the ball on survivability when we arrive on scene. The top graphic there, only 14% of the people that we responded to this past year had CPR that was done by a bystander. And by bystander, we mean a family member or a civilian. So we do have law enforcement, we do have first responders, we do have healthcare professionals that are out and about, but a large majority of the time, there's still time we're leaving on the table if bystanders or family members are not doing CPR. So only 14%. We had 15 calls, so I know the math is kind of weird there with 14, but 15 calls we had a family member or bystander do CPR out of the 105 responses we had last year. It plays a huge factor in survivability. The quicker you can do CPR, the better. There on the bottom left where we have our house icon, 60% of the cardiac arrests we responded to last year were in somebody's home. So pretty much if you're not notifying 911 right away and starting CPR right away, it's going to take at least 4 minutes for us to get to you. It'll take 2 to 3 minutes for law enforcement to get to you to start any kind of CPR. So it's a big, big driver in what keeps you alive. We realized that as a department, and we have trying to take steps. This past year, we started forming partnerships with different agencies, and I'll let Chief Woodward come up here shortly to talk about that. But I do want to highlight there on the top right, the chain of survival, and that's the AHA recognized chain. The biggest thing is, yes, realizing that somebody is having a heart attack, but the second biggest one, and that's the one that we kind of fall down as a location, and that's not specific to Victoria, that's location specific to Texas, especially the South region, that we don't do good early CPR. And if we can get that number up, we can increase the survivability, we can increase our ROSC rate, and it all kind of trickles down from the earlier you get CPR, the better. But if you'll give me a second, I'll introduce Chief Woodward, and he can come up here and give a little bit more detail on the steps that we're taking to address that issue that we found out.
All right, I'm Chief Woodward, I'm the training chief, all right? And so we talked about getting the ROS numbers up, and obviously the best way to do that is to improve ourselves and do the matrix and look to see like how can we get CPR out, you know, to the public faster. So the police officers are already trained, the sheriff's office are already trained. Well, how can we do that? So we launched basically we got together with the RAC and partnered with all the different the members of the RAC, which is the Victoria College, DTAR Hospital, Citizens Hospital, you know, the Office of Emergency Management, all those different entities we got together and we started a campaign because as you can see there that the CPR, early CPR can double and triple somebody's chance of survival. And so that's what we're going out and doing public public hands-only CPR training. So these are the people that we kind of named it Be the Beat, and those are all the partners there that we partnered with, and we're doing heart saver classes. We're doing hands-only CPR classes. We've done some different things at each one of the venues where we've trained people how to do hands-only CPR. And so, let's see here, our goal, we wanted 1,000 people trained in 2024. And so, let's see here, so far right now, we've got 278 trained just in the past 2 months. If we continue on that trend, we're gonna double. So we're gonna have an army of, let's say, 2,000 hands-only CPR trained people out there that are willing to put forth that effort and, get the to start doing that. And of course, this is the kind of the preface of the whole class. We're having constant people calling my office trying to get classes. We actually have two. We have a lunch and learn tomorrow we partnered with the PD, and we actually have another lunch and learn going on at the same time to do hands-only CPR. So we've got several scheduled throughout the rest of the year. So, any questions?
There been any communication with VISD in regards to this?
Yes, well, we're planning on doing some stuff with them. But we're gonna try to do a main big event with them, maybe at a football game or something like that. We're talking about that right now. So.
And Chief Woodward has been very instrumental in communicating with us at the college to get this program off the ground. So I want to applaud him and the other fire department members who are really stepping up to get the public trained in compressions-only CPR. Okay.
Yeah, no, thank you for doing that. I mean, obviously, it's a good reminder for all of us that we need to acquire those skills and keep those skills sharp because they make a difference. So appreciate what you're doing there. Hopefully we'll get to our goal this year. That'd be great.
So we'll see you at the lunch and learn tomorrow.
There you go.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all so much. Very helpful. Hopefully that brought some further clarity. Councilmember?
Yes, it did.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. De La Garza. Any other items from council? Okay, then we will move on to B4 with the citizens' communication. I find myself with no comment cards. Is there anyone that, from the public that would like to speak to council? Ms. Hilbert, please note that in the minutes.
I turned around like I thought I saw him.
I could have sworn he was there, yes. Well, even without comment, you're more than welcome, Mr. Bondurant. Good to see you. Moving on then, if no one else.
Feels a little weird.
We won't know how to act, but we'll move forward. Moving on then to item C, which is items with public hearings. Item C1.
Item C1 is an ordinance amending the Drought Contingency Plan Division 3 of the City Code. This item is on first reading.
Hello again.
Hello, Mr.
Going
Gill.
to kind of go over what I did last council session. Basically, why we're here to conserve water. Summers are getting hotter. Water is a limited resource, and we've just got to protect the ecosystem. Those are the big three drivers of water conservation. Some background, the city's permit to get water from the Guadalupe River was filed in '93, granted in '96, based off our off-channel reservoirs, which we have 10 of them, 8 functionable, 2 of them are a little shallow and on the high side. Initiated the drought contingency per TCEQ, and it's required to update every 5 years. This is our current stages. In the ordinance, we have stage 1, stage 2, 3, 4, and 5. We've mirrored a lot of what TCEQ has that put forth to all the cities with drought contingency. That way, as you hear Corpus Christi or San Antonio, they have stage 2, stage 3. a lot of ours are mirrored to them, so it helps the citizens as they come in to town. They know that drought contingencies are basically similar in a lot of the cities. As you'll note, some of the things is reduction in water use on the drought plan stages. This is one of the things we do want to change, as pointed out last time, is we do want to increase the reduction of water consumption. And we did change those to reflect with our increase in our off-channel reservoirs. We want to keep those full. And that will impact our water reduction. So those were changed from the last time. And then our drought restrictions for customers, this is very similar. We did change the times to PM instead of midnight. We got those corrected. That was critical to be consistent through the drought ordinance. And then our public awareness campaign. This is, I think, the most important thing that for the citizens. As we came to the freeze events, citizens did great. I mean, we went this last freeze, we averaged about 15 million gallons, which is about 5 over. So we got the word out to the citizens, we got the word out to the apartment complexes, and they did a phenomenal job on limiting their water during the freeze. I think we can achieve the same thing if we really push this public awareness campaign. One of the things I added was on the bottom, cycle and soak. I think that's an important one. If we can get that out, the theory is run your sprinkler for 10 minutes, 3 times with an hour separating each cycle. That's a new thing with the ecologists is instead of running it for an hour, or 30 minutes at a time, run it for 10 minutes, let it soak in, run it again, let it soak in. And I think that's something that we need to push as far as our public heading out there. One of the other things is we talked about why the times. You know, we go from 6 a.m. to 10 and then 8 to midnight. During the evenings, at night, you really don't want to water because of the fungus. You water at night, your yard's going to get fungus and disease. The best times to water is early in the morning, and at night, right before dawn, is when we do our job at the water plant to make sure all the towers are full, we're running at capacity so that we get that early morning rush out there. But it's also the best time to water, less evaporation. One thing I learned, just as a side note, is that if you water during the day when it's 95 degrees, you're actually putting boiling water on your grass. You're going to kill it. And that is something I think that we need to get out to the public. Don't water during the day. You're hurting, doing more harm than you're helping. What's next? After the first reading, if approved, we go to the second reading. And then next week, we'll bring the water conservation as a resolution. That's as part of the drought contingency ordinance. I know one of the things that we talked about that was discussed is the section that is stage 5, the emergency water shortage. We have the word unprecedented. We're considering changing that to critical because once it's happened, there's your precedence. So that's one of the changes we'll bring back on the second and third reading.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
I had one, it's question, comment. I like your thought of the timing and watering for 10 minutes and waiting. But we've got a sprinkler system and it's not designed to run 3 times a day. We've got it set for times and then it runs again the next day. I'm just kind of curious if if that's a newer system, you know how to do it.
Yeah, because you can set your thing to water more than once a day. You just have to set up a program for it to water at a certain time, and then water at another certain time, and water at another.
There was a public service announcement then, thank you.
And that, just to add on to that, that is the one particular one we want to get out to the, and we might do it specifically. There are a lot of individuals with sprinkler meters, is get the word specifically to those customers to set your times and to the actual days when we're in a drought stage 2, where it's either a Thursday, Sunday, or Wednesday and Saturday. Set them up. That's really what you need. 2 days of watering a week is plenty during that time, because your grass goes dormant anyway when it's that hot. It slows down. So that's another thing we want to do, is get the word out to the places with sprinkler meters, including the businesses.
Mr. Gill, can you go back a couple of slides to the percentages and the levels
Boy.
within the reservoirs?
Where did I go?
That's like last council meeting.
Well, I can ask it even without the slide. How about that? So-
Okay.
So because our percentages are based on the level within the off-channel reservoirs, particularly number 8, correct?
Right.
Okay, and we've talked before about connecting those reservoirs or having better connections between them. What impact, if we went through with that project on connecting those reservoirs, what impact would that have? Does that impact 8, or is that the other reservoirs?
It would impact 8.
Okay,
What we're doing now, to give you an idea, we've got all the reservoirs. We manually switch water from one reservoir to another with pumps and piping. We're doing that now. And by interconnecting them through natural means, we wouldn't be out there setting a pump if it's, dry or the pump goes down. A lot of times we'll have to rent one for during the summer to really get that water from 7 to 6, and then 6 to 8. But that's the purpose of the interconnect. So it's a more of a physical, natural connection.
got it. Okay.
And just to give you one last quick comment, our reservoirs are very full compared to what they were last year. So we're in better shape this year.
Very good. Any other questions? Okay, then, item C1, then, I will open the public hearing if anyone wishes to address that item. Seeing no one come forward, I will close the public hearing and entertain any motions with respect to that item.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for approval of item C1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, C1 carries. Then moving to the consent agenda, and I guess we'll do items 1 through 6. Ms. Hilberg, if you would help me there.
Yes, sir. Item D1 is the adoption of minutes of the special work session held on March 1st, 2024, and the regular meeting held on March 5th, 2024. Item D2 is an ordinance approving a budget amendment to the FY 2024 budget in the amount of $221,500 to cover the cost of modifications to prevent water intrusion to the city's public works facility, and this item is on second and third reading. Item D3 is a resolution approving an updated version of the City of Victoria seal and authorizing the city manager to facilitate the trademarking of the updated City of Victoria seal. Item D4 is a resolution approving an interlocal cooperation contract for the Failure to Appear program. Item D5 is a resolution awarding the annual NFPA firefighter medical assessment and physical contract to Life Scan Wellness Centers in the amount not to exceed $72,000. Item D6 is a resolution to the City of the City of Victoria suspending the April 4th, 2024 effective date of the AEP Texas Incorporated's requested rate change to permit the city time to study the request and to establish reasonable rates.
Thank you, Ms. Hilberg. Any motions on items D1 through 6?
So move.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item D7.
Item D7 is a resolution appointing presiding judges and alternate judges for the May 4th, 2024 joint general election.
Nombrar jueces titulares y suplentes para las elecciones generales conjuntas del 4 de mayo del 2024.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The resolution before you tonight would appoint the judges and alternate judges for the May 4th election. Elections Administrator Hill sent me a revised list of judges just yesterday. She did reduce the number of polling places. She originally believed 27 were going to be necessary, but has reduced that to 20, and that's based on which entities are participating in the election. And she also had to change a couple of the judges' names just to make sure that we have judges that could actually serve on those days. By reducing the number of polling places, the shared cost of the election does reduce, so that's a good thing. And the other entities that are participating with us would be Drainage District 3, VISD, Industrial ISD, and Water Control Improvement District number 1. Are there any questions? And a copy of the new list is located on the dais for each of you.
Are we appointing judges for all of these elections, and are we the only body
No,
appointing
everybody
the
should appoint
judges?
their own judges.
Everybody-
We're all sharing the same judges, but you should appoint your judges. That's actually required as part of the election code. It's something that the city council should do, is appoint.
And do they serve just for this election, or is it a longer period?
Just for this election. You can appoint at the beginning of the year. I believe the county kind of does that and then makes changes if necessary. That's allowed, but Ms. Margettis usually has to make changes throughout the year, just especially when special elections and things come up. Sometimes she has to make changes. People go on vacations. You remember, a lot of these are older people that take these positions, or people that are, not retired or stayed homes, something like that, because they do get paid a small stipend to serve, but sometimes they're just not available.
Thank you.
Sure.
So April, we're all voting on the same judges? Everybody that's got?
Yes, ma'am.
So
they should
basically,
be.
we all have every
Yes,
entity?
ma'am. We'll all share the same judges.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, with that, and that helps reduce costs as well.
Okay.
I move we adopt D7, or C7, or whatever it is.
D.
D7.
You seconded, Mr. Davis? I've got a motion and a second then on item D7. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. D7 passes. So moving then to section E.
I'll read it. Item E1.
Item
approval-
E1.
Approval of the 2024, 2026, 2035 Comprehensive Plan Action Agenda. And Julie will quickly run through this. You've seen it, but we felt, and I felt it was appropriate to run through it again for the benefit of the general public that is watching today that might not have had an opportunity to watch the workshop.
Good evening. So this is take 2 of our 24-26 action agenda. As you know, this is the companion document to our comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan, Plan 2035, was adopted in 2016, and that's our long-range plan that covers a 20-year planning horizon. It will, this proposed action agenda will replace our 2021 to 2023 action agenda, which was adopted in 2021. And the proposed action agenda has 38 short-term or midterm action agenda items, which are all, of course, tied to our comp plan. And then actually some of them are tied to our special master plans that we have since adopted that also were recommended in our comp plan. So this is the original action agenda that was published back in 2016 on our comp plan. So if you kind of take a minute and look at those, you'll recognize many things we have checked off and completed. The number 1 on that list is, I know it's really small, but special area plans. And as you know, we've had a lot of special area focused plans. And you will notice on the proposed action agenda that there's items on this list that we have not done yet that are being carried forward that we still are working on, such as water supply and storage. So as you know, our comp plan is divided into 5 focus areas, which is land use and development, mobility, growth capacity and infrastructure, economic opportunity, and recreation and amenities. And within those sections, we have a lot of other recommendations. And this really is just a summary of that previous slide. It's a little easier to read, not quite so small. These completed master plans are also building upon our comp plan, which, as I said, has a 20-year horizon. So this may be our second to last or last action agenda as we wrap this action agenda up that we're proposing or requesting that you adopt tonight, we will definitely need to be start talking about when are we going to update our citywide comprehensive plan, or do an update, or maybe even just embark on a completely new plan. So these are the proposed action items. Under the land use and development, we have 3, which is adopt the newer updated floodplain maps, the inundation or drainage study implementation and drainage fee, and then also doing an analysis of infill and redevelopment areas that need infrastructure projects to facilitate that infill and redevelopment. Under the mobility chapter, we have transit route study, increased downtown parking access and improvements, specifically also including ADA compliance, pedestrian and motorist safety, public information campaign, Guy Grant reconstruction, North Street reconstruction, and then a complete streetscape package and mobility projects. This is a specific project out of the downtown master plan. Growth capacity and management is our largest section. We have update the existing water, sewer, and storm sewer infrastructure, develop water supply strategy, maintain and improve level of service with population growth as it relates to the public safety departments, water conservation, public information campaign, which kind of ties into the ordinance that you just adopted on first reading. Enhance emergency preparedness and response capabilities, strengthen community partnerships and public outreach and engagement, increase public safety department's efficiencies through technology, and then staff development and retention, complete our landfill expansion project, a waste diversion campaign, amend landfill contract to include class 1 non-hazardous waste, continue the beautification and maintenance of our city, which we've been doing, which also includes those neighborhood cleanups, and continue to maintain and improve, which may not be possible, but at least continue to maintain our ISO rating, which may or may not include relocation of fire station number 5, depending on when our next ISO review states.
Julie, just on that one, the word waster is catching my attention.
Yes, I'm sorry, that's a typo.
Did you say wastewater?
It's a waste diversion campaign, so
okay.
Trash diversion.
Trash, okay.
Recycling.
Well, waster fits, but it...
Sorry.
Thank you.
I was trying to just smooth right past that typo.
It does fit.
And our second to last is economic opportunity, workforce support. Specifically as it relates to housing, childcare, and transportation, workforce development, support local businesses, and that's more of a Main Street initiative as far as Main Street sponsorship and local business fair, develop Main Street subcommittee structure and volunteer networks with the public, development of infrastructure for economic development for new industrial park or the airport, port, or an I-69 development opportunities. Those are all, we believe, big economic opportunities for the city that could be developed further. Create and implement a downtown activation guidebook, develop a downtown maintenance program, and strengthen communication outreach of downtown offerings to community partners, really specifically the college and the university. And then the last section of recreation and amenities, we have a parks to standards investment in existing parks. Instead of kind of piecemealing enhancements, really look at the whole park in totality as we're looking at investments into that specific park. Community center restoration, expansion, and renovation. Riverside Park rejuvenation, specifically Splash Pad Trail and other projects. The Ethel E. Tracy Park renovations and expansion. MLK Park reconstruction. A marketing plan for a program specifically to call residents so they know what our offerings are. Update community and regional park athletic fields, the Lone Tree Trail Network phased expansion, and then maintenance or upgrades to the Riverside Golf Course and Clubhouse. So what's next is tonight we're asking for you to adopt the 2024 to 2026 action agenda. As you know, this presentation was covered at our quarterly workshop, and I know we kind of covered a lot of ground there, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that maybe have come to mind since then.
Questions? Thank you, Ms. Fulgham, appreciate it. Entertaining motions with respect to item E1.
I move to adopt.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. E1 carries. Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work.
Item E2.
Item E2 is a resolution awarding the 2024 residential street maintenance project to Clark Construction of Texas Incorporated in the amount of $2,556,838.60.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here tonight to present and recommend award of the 2024 residential street maintenance project. This is the sixth straight year which we performed a residential street maintenance project. Our budget for this year for this project was $2,556,975. We had proposed a total of 3.27 miles of improvements to be part of this project. Of that, there were 4 separate subdivisions. Stubblefield Addition, we had 0.9 miles. Acres Subdivision, 0.22 miles. Emerald Hill Subdivision, 0.42 miles. Putney Moore Subdivision, 1.33 miles. And then a portion of Pleasant Green from Laurent Street down to the city limits, which was 0.4 miles. Proposed scope of work was one course chip seal with a coat of onyx as a finish, or a 2-course chip seal with the coat of onyx as a finish. That was going to be on Emerald Hills subdivision. Reclaim, prime, 2-course chip seal in onyx. It's a little bit more involved in the street, but that was on a street that was a little bit more deteriorated than some of these previous ones. Mill and overlay with HMAC or hot mix asphalt. And then also we proposed reconstruction, which would include limestone base, excavation down to subgrade, limestone base, a prime course, 1-course chip seal, and an 1.5 inches of hot mix on that. On the Stubblefield addition, there were various streets, Power Avenue, George Street, Staten Avenue, and Troy Street. Those are covered up by the lines I put on there. Acres Addition was between North Street and Port Lavaca Highway, just north of the railroad, and consisted of Avenue C, and also I've covered up the other 2 street names, so I can't quite tell you those.
Forrest.
Emerald Hill subdivision, we had Jade Street, Jade Drive, Topaz Lane. Putney Moore subdivision was Plainview Street, Ozark Street, Bumford Street. Trying to see all those. Anyway.
Booker.
Big Port and Booker.
You're supposed to know them by memory by now.
I'm supposed to know that. Thank you. Yes, I should have. Sorry about that, folks. And then on Pleasant Green, the most southern section from Laurent going back to the city limits. We received one proposal from Clark Construction of Texas Incorporated in the amount of $3,662,355.10. Their contract time was proposed at 270 calendar days with the proposed start date of April of this year with a completion, that is a typo, should be December of 2024. I did not catch that one. This proposal was over our budget. Once we realized that, we began discussions with Clark Construction to figure out ways to reduce the cost of the project. We were able to accomplish this by modifying proposed scope of work on a couple of the streets and therefore reducing the cost of the project by $1.1 million. The proposed changes are we were going to revise the work on Goodwin Avenue, Avenue C, and Forest Avenue. These were all in Acres subdivision. Those were originally to be reconstructed, but after going and looking at the streets a little bit closer, we've determined that we were able to, by reclaiming chip seal and onyx, that we would have a good quality surface on the road and they would be satisfactory for going forward. And also we believe that we can reduce the quantity of some of the hot mix level up and point repairs that we were going to have to do on some of these streets. Those quantities were always just sort of, okay, let's take a look at it. We think this is what we think we'll need to do. But then sometimes we always bump those quantities just so that we're covered on that. But after looking at the streets and discussing this with Clark Construction, We feel that we could reduce some of those quantities and bring down the overall cost of the project. Staff recommends that we award this contract in the amount of $255,250. Hold on.
2 million.
I will get it out in just a second, thank you. $2,556,838.60. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I'll just mention, and I guess maybe even ask the question, but you may be asking yourself, well, I thought we discussed doing, a longer part of Pleasant Green. And keep in mind that what we're awarding today is strictly just what we classify as our residential street program. And separately, we bid out some of the thoroughfares and the mill and overlays. We typically kind of, bid those out separate. And so that's the reason why, you're only seeing here a section of Pleasant Green. You'll see the remaining part of Pleasant Green when we get around to awarding the other work.
Just last Wednesday, we received bids on some mill and overlay project, and 2 sections of Pleasant Green were on there from Laurent up to Port Lavaca Highway and, to Callis, and from Callis to Port Lavaca Highway. We'll be following up with the final section of Pleasant Green, which is from Port Lavaca Highway to Juan Lynn. That'll be a complete reconstruction. That project we're just completing the design, and will be advertised shortly, and we'll take bids, I believe, first part of April on that street.
Well, since you mentioned reconstruction, I had a question, and then everything you were proposing wasn't reconstruction. So, and I know you're new, you mentioned what the reconstruction would be, but I didn't hear my favorite words, geogrid. Is that still part of our specs?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay.
I may have just glossed over that, just trying to keep the text a little bit
I
shorter.
appreciate it, because I've gathered that that's kind of an important part, and I'm always listening for those words.
I will make sure and include that the next time.
Thank you.
We can always count on Councilwoman Scott to point out when we're, leaving
us on our
something out
toes.
or misspelling something or,
Any further questions? All right, thank you for the information.
Motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for item E2. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. E2 passes. And moving on to item E3 then.
Item E3 is a resolution improving the entertainment district boundary expansion.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council.
Good evening.
Hopefully I have a typo-free and short presentation for you. Today I'm here to propose to you an entertainment district boundary expansion. So the purpose of this proposal is to expand the entertainment district to include both current and known future development projects that will hopefully strengthen the district. So today, here's your current boundary. I've given a couple of points of interest to help orient you. You see De Leon Plaza in the northwestern corner, City Hall, we're toward the southern central. Goes up to Goodwin, comes all the way down to Juan Lynn, over to Glass and William with a couple of bump downs. And so we are proposing to expand the boundary to include a more northern eastern path. So you'll see that we've proposed expanding it up to Power Avenue and over to Navarro, essentially. So what that will include then is the public library. 1 block north of that, what was prior the funeral home. We're anticipating that to be developed into something suitable for the entertainment district. And then over to, you'll see Mitchell School, Memorial Square, 1 more block east. And then above that, you'll see Power Avenue Warehouse. That triangle that goes up is Power Avenue Warehouse. And then you'll see that vacant lot that is up against the railroad tracks and the underpass. And again, that will include those sites that I had just mentioned that will strengthen this entertainment district. And again, I just wanted to kind of overlay what the Main Street boundary looks like with the cultural district, with the entertainment district. I know we have a lot of districts and boundaries, but this will kind of help also flesh out more of that area within those districts as well.
I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
The area that picks up Forest, it's right in front of the bank where we now have the stage. The entertainment district goes all the way to that north boundary of Forest?
Yes, ma'am. It'll go right up to One O'Connor Plaza's property line. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So I know that the idea of the entertainment district is to be able to go from point A to point B with a beer or, wine in your hand. And I was just wondering if that was going to encompass that whole area right in there that we just renovated.
Yes, ma'am. It will.
Okay, okay.
I think that was certainly one of the aspects of that entertainment district. I think it was also get into some permitting and some things of that nature that it makes that process
ABC,
easier to
right.
conduct festivals or events or that sort of thing. So,
Right, and I think one of the key things, the mayor is mentioning it, right, is just trying to help facilitate having more events, right? One of the things that we envision undertaking here in the near future, once we really get past the completion of De Leon Plaza, is looking at trying to reimagine Memorial Square. We've been talking about it for years. You may recall, the nonprofit that came wanting to put a monument up somewhere, and we discussed placing it in Memorial Square, and so we never really came back around to finalizing further improving that space. And obviously we have an effort underway to revitalize the Mitchell School, and so it just makes sense to include those areas as part of this to support the private sector efforts going on at Mitchell School, but continue to support our public efforts at Memorial Square.
What are the implications of including the library, which is a city-county building, within this district? Both from the outside and also the inside. I mean, are we trying to facilitate events with alcohol, or are we just letting people walk from the south border to the north and back and forth? I just was wondering about that one.
Yes, ma'am. The goal is connectivity and kind of keeping the boundary. So instead of having two disjointed sections of that entertainment district, it's the connectivity that we were going for.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
any other questions? All right, Ms. Garcia, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I will entertain any motions with respect to this item.
So move.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for item E3. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. E3 passes. City manager reports. Mr. Garza.
We do not have any for this evening, but we do have a healthy executive session.
Very good. Well, then, we will adjourn into executive session following, let's take a 10-minute break before we do so.
The City Council recessed for executive session on the 19th day of March 2024 at 5:57 p.m. Subject matter is as follows: Texas Government Code 551.087, 551.071, and 551.072.
He left, but what I heard